When you think of an elite special operator, what pops into your head? Probably some Hollywood action hero, right? Well, the reality is so much more demanding and, honestly, way more fascinating. So what's the real difference between a regular soldier and someone in America's most elite forces? Let's get into it. All right, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll get a lay of the land with America's elite forces. Then we'll dive into the absolutely brutal selection process they go through. We'll look at the unique mindset they have to build, the incredible cost to body and mind, and finally, what happens after the uniform comes off. Okay, first up, let's just get a handle on the landscape here. We're stepping into the world of U.S. Special Operations Command. You'll hear it called SOCOM. They're the big umbrella organization for all of these highly specialized units. So what does Special Operations Forces, or SOF, even mean? Well, think of them as the military's precision instruments. They are elite units trained for the highest risk, most unconventional missions you can imagine. We're talking about operating in places no one else can go. It demands just unbelievable endurance and adaptability, which makes them such a critical part of national security. You know, what's really interesting is how specialized these units are. They're not all the same. You've got the Army's Green Berets, who are absolute masters of unconventional warfare, often training foreign allies. The Navy SEALs, they own the water. MARSOC Raiders from the Marines are like the ultimate multi-tool, incredibly versatile in any environment. And then you have a unit like the Army's Delta Force. They're what's called Tier 1, which means they get the call for the most sensitive, high-stakes missions on the planet. So, how on earth do you find people who can actually do these jobs? That brings us to the heart of it all, the brutal, soul-crushing selection process that's designed to weed out everyone but the absolute best of the best. And right away, you see these huge differences in philosophy. Take the Navy SEALs. They often recruit civilians right off the street. Their goal is to find raw, untapped potential and then build an operator from the ground up. But Delta Force? Totally different game. They only recruit from the Army's existing elite, guys who are already proven warriors in units like the Rangers. Their job isn't to build, it's to find the absolute tip of the spear from a group that's already elite. And just how selective are we talking? Get a load of this number. A typical Delta Force selection class starts with about 120 applicants. Remember, these are all decorated, experienced soldiers. By the end, only about 12 to 14 will still be standing. The washout rate is just mind-blowing. So what is it that breaks so many of these tough-as-nails candidates? It's a non-stop, 4-week grind. It includes these punishing land navigation tests where the weight in your pack keeps going up and the time you have to finish keeps going down. The whole thing culminates in the infamous long walk, a 40-mile trek over brutal terrain with a 45-pound pack. But even if you somehow finish that, you then have to face a psychological board where instructors pick apart your every word, your every move. And here's the real kicker. You can pass every single test and still not get selected. See, a process that intense doesn't just forge a soldier. It forges a very specific kind of mindset. And to really get what that means, let's look at someone who is the living embodiment of it. Let's talk about David Goggins. His story is, well, it's insane. After leaving the Air Force, he was working a regular job and weighed almost 300 pounds. To even get a shot at Navy SEAL training, he had to lose 106 pounds in just 3 months. And he did it. He not only became a SEAL, but years later, he went to the Army's elite Ranger School and graduated as the Unlisted Honor Man. It's just an unbelievable story of transformation. This quote from Goggins really captures the whole operator mindset in a nutshell. He calls it the 40% rule. The idea is that when your brain is screaming at you, telling you you're completely finished, you have nothing left, you've actually only tapped into about 40% of what you're truly capable of. It's all about smashing through those walls you think are your limits. But constantly living in that red zone, always pushing past that 40% barrier, it comes with a heavy price. And that brings us to a really important look at the massive physical and psychological toll this career takes on a person. You know, there's a scientific term for this. It's called allostatic overload. The best way to think about it is like the total wear and tear on your body and your mind from being under constant, extreme stress without ever getting enough time to truly recover. And when that load gets too heavy, things can start to break down, which leads to some really serious controversies. And this reality has forced the military community to ask itself some really tough questions. You know, how extreme is too extreme? Is the cost of creating these operators just getting too high?
And look, these are not just abstract worries. We've seen tragic trainee deaths, like Kyle Mullins during SEAL selection, which forced a major reckoning. Investigations have found widespread use of performance-enhancing drugs by candidates just trying to survive the training. It even led one senior SEAL to ask this really chilling question: are we just selecting the best cheaters instead of the best warfighters? It's a question that cuts right to the heart of what kind of character these programs are actually selecting for.
Now, despite all those serious issues, the story doesn't end there. Because that same relentless drive that pushes these guys through selection often feels an incredible legacy of positive impact long after they've left the military. Let's circle back to David Goggins. After his military career, he started competing in some of the most punishing endurance races on the planet. But he wasn't just doing it for himself. He did it to raise money for the kids of his fallen comrades. To date, he's raised over $2 million for the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. And that level of dedication is just almost hard to wrap your head around. There are a few guys out there like Kevin Holland, who is one of a tiny handful of people on Earth to have passed selection for the Navy SEALs, the Army Green Berets, and Delta Force. I mean, the level of commitment that takes is just off the charts. So I guess that leaves us with this final big question. When you look at the world of special operations, what is the true measure of strength? Is it just the ability to endure unimaginable amounts of pain? Or is it having the character to handle that incredible power with integrity, both on and off the battlefield? It's definitely something worth thinking about.